So this is Andrew Beshear. Who is Andrew Beshear? Well, he's Andy. That's Andy Beshear. That's Baby Beshear. Baby Beshear is the current Attorney General of Kentucky today. Andy Beshear had graduated Henry Clay High School. Henry Clay once said he'd rather be right than to be president. Henry Clay was a drunkard. He was anti-Andrew Jackson. Henry Clay was more of an aristocrat. Henry Clay was a slave owner, and he said of the female slave who ran away from his plantation that he spoiled her. Oh, yeah, Henry Clay, that's why the slave ran away, because you were so good to her. You were spoiling her. Maybe freedom is just that powerful of an inclination that, you know, even if you spoil a slave, they're still a slave and they still want freedom. So Baby Beshear, he's born in central Kentucky, born, raised, and educated in Kentucky for his public schools. He gets his bachelor's degree from Vanderbilt University, gets his law degree from the University of Virginia School of Law. He specialized in consumer and nonprofit law. He ran on only 3 issues, and I can't even remember the other 2 issues. One was child abuse, and that one hit home for me. So Baby Beshear is against child abuse. And abuse is a very big problem, pervasive and persistent problem in Kentucky. Elder abuse, animal abuse, child abuse. There's also illiteracy and meth and STDs and racism and just health problems and poverty. There's just a lot of issues that Kentucky is faced with. So he's the son of a former governor, Steve Beshear, who was governor for 2 terms from 2007 to 2015. It was Baby Beshear that was winning the polls by, you know, overwhelming amount. He got 55% of the people, 603 Kentuckians, to say that they were going to vote for him. So 55%, you know, traditionally, if you get a poll that says that, then you've already won. You've already won. But, you know, the polls have been wrong when it came to Jack Conway and Matt Bevin. It was wrong when it was Donald and Hillary. So the polls have been wrong and almost fully discredited. They also didn't add Jeff Young to the mix. So they didn't even ask the Kentucky people, all 4 candidates that was on the ballot. Andy's wife is Jacqueline. I think it's Jacqueline. I think he's running with his wife. So Baby Beshear, when it comes to the issues, as Baby Beshear is still talking about the opioid epidemic, the war on drugs has been going on for 50, 60 years. The drugs are winning in Kentucky. The drugs are winning. If it's not opioids, then it's meth. If it's not meth, then it's, you know, there's always the brand new thing. Kentuckians always, you know, seem to pick up the next new thing. And so he highlights the opioid epidemic, but that just sounds like a bunch of neoliberal talk, right? Jeff Young is going to end the war on drugs. John Hicks is going to end the war on drugs. That's a very clear-cut issue, highlighting the opioid epidemic. Y'all been talking about it for, you know, decades. You haven't fixed it. This sounds like Rocky Atkins, how they're parsing their words. So Rocky Atkins doesn't sound like he's for universal health care. Rocky Atkins is just for universal access to health care. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean, well, I mean, that just sounds like you're not going to get us universal health care. Rocky Atkins is also not for school choice. So Rocky Atkins never got back to me. Andy Beshear never got back to me. Adam Edelin never got back to me. Matt Bevin's people got back to me. So I was able to communicate with Jeff Young, Matt Bevin's people, Ike Lawrence, John Hicks, William E. Woods. So that's 3 Republicans, 1 Libertarian. It's a little frustrating, right? It's a little frustrating because I'm going to be a person that actually parses through the policies. I'm not looking for the sensational, you know, I'm not just trying to get a gotcha question. I actually want to just articulate the views as you see them. And if you don't have reasons for the things that you're saying, so, okay, Andy Beshear. What does Andy Beshear, Baby Beshear, what does he believe? Right, he's going to highlight the opioid epidemic. He's pointing out wage stagnation, which is a criticism of Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton for the last 30 years, 40 years. Public education is a critical plank to his platform, so he cares about public education. He cares about jobs and wages. He cares about the opioid epidemic. He wants every child to have a world-class education. That sounds nice, a world-class education. Teachers need to get big, fat pension retirement checks. Says that Kentucky government operates in secret, and when he's all about transparency. So he's saying that Kentucky's got a secret government right now. So that's Matt Bevin, right? Matt Bevin is acting, he's doing everything in secret. What the hell's going on? Nobody really knows. You know, there's only 13% turnout rate. Beshear also believes in term limits for every single Kentucky official. This is a great idea. When you have people that are in there for 30, 40 years, you need to get new blood in there. I always heard in, working at corporations that you move yourself up when you train someone else to do your job. But I think that a lot of people think it's the opposite. Once you got the job, then you circle the wagons and you just make sure nobody else can get in there. So if the democracy of Kentucky was working, then you would get new blood in there all the time. It's not working. Term limits. If 8 years is good enough for George Washington, then why would any of these assholes think that they could stay in there for 30 or 40 years? There's a lot of career politicians. Rocky Atkins is a career politician. Mitch McConnell is a career politician. They get in power and they stay in power and they run perennial over and over and over and over again. But they don't get hit with that perennial discriminatory label, right? They are being taken serious. They got power. They're not a regular citizen. How come regular citizens can't achieve power in Kentucky? Why doesn't Kentucky have the American dream, the rags to riches American dream? Well, term limits is a good idea. So good idea, Andy Beshear. He says Matt Bevin cut the wages of many state workers. The biggest highlights of Andy Beshear's attorney generalship, when Matt Bevin cut the wages of many state workers by 10% or so by executive order, the Attorney General, Andy Beshear, stopped him. So, if anything, Andy Beshear has been stemming the flow, stopping the damage that Matt Bevin can do to the state of Kentucky. Andy Beshear sued him, saying that Matt Bevin can't cut the wages of many of the state workers by 10% or so by executive order. He needs to have legislative approval. We got 3 branches of government for a reason. And even though I was kind of like, well, it's a good thing, cutting wages, so what's his problem? But ultimately, Andy Beshear wins. Andy Beshear, the Supreme Court decided with Andy Beshear, and Matt Bevin had to go back and get the legislative approval to cut the wages. So Andy Beshear talks about fighting against the drug companies. There's a problem when you fight with opioids. A lot of older people, a lot of people in pain need their pain medication. To get rid of pain, that's a good thing. You should always be in favor of getting rid of pain. So when you cut the opioids and you make it such a, impossible feat for people that need it legitimately, so I think that, Beshear brags about how he's going to protect the retirement of teachers and the first responders. Well, teachers, say one thing, they get 50% of the wages in their retirement. Judges get 100% of their pensions back. So judges get $130,000 every year from the taxpayers in Kentucky. So they make not just millionaire judges who are working now, but the judges who retire. They get to keep on making the same amount of money as if they were working. So you're going to tax me, so that way these corrupt judges can live a nice, luxurious life. And especially when you got poor people all over the place. $10,000 per capita in Clay County, 17% poverty rate, 22% for the children. You got a lot of poverty going on, so maybe it's because the tax money is going straight to the judges. So he's going to protect the retirement of teachers, first responders, defends health care for families, get justice for victims of rape and sexual assault. All good things. Health care is a basic human right. Oh, that's powerful. All Kentuckians, no matter where they live or how much they earn, deserve access to affordable health care. Well, is that universal health care? He sounded like Rocky Atkins again. I'm currently fighting against a federal court. So this is Baby Beshear's words. I'm currently fighting against a federal court ruling which would eliminate mandatory coverage for pre-existing conditions and could eliminate health coverage for 1.3 million Kentuckians, costing Kentuckians both money and lives. Also, on my first day as governor, I will halt Mr. Bevin's efforts to throw thousands of families off the Medicaid program. So he's for some kind of health care, but he's not saying universal health care. He's, running all around universal health care. I guess because that black president was for universal health care. You're not allowed to talk about that black president in Kentucky. So eliminating mandatory coverage for pre-existing conditions, that's Obamacare. Eliminate health coverage for 1.3 million Kentuckians is an absolute crime, which you could sue. If he's all about suing the Attorney General if people die of health problems, when you had free Medicaid money just sitting there, and you're just saying, no, I'm a conservative, so I won't take the federal money. I think you're responsible for those deaths. So that's good that he's for Prepare our workforce for the 21st century and jobs well suited for Kentucky in fields like agritech, automation, data analytics, and healthcare. And data analytics and automation, agritech. So 21st century jobs, I like that. Bring Kentucky into the 21st century. Agritech, automation, data analytics, healthcare. There's a lot more industries than just those. I'm wondering why you just picked those. Automation, data analytics. So under Matt Bevin, Beshear says, Kentucky is near the bottom in the nation for job and wage growth. Bevin brags about 50,000 jobs, so that's one job for every 100 Kentuckians. My vision for growing our economy doesn't depend on massive giveaways for wealthy out-of-state CEOs like we've seen from Matt Bevin. We should be investing in our workforce, focusing on the areas in which Kentucky is uniquely positioned to lead, like agritech, automation, data analytics. What is this? Healthcare. Rocky Atkins was talking about aerospace. So what about aerospace? Is that a good industry? There's lots of brand new industries. The software industry, the technology. There's a lot of new industries. Why just those four? Andy, why are you only caring about just those four, industries? Now, he is saying a lot of the, similar criticisms that I would say. He's sitting there saying that Matt Bevin is doing these fishing expeditions, wasting $30 million for nothing, and yet he doesn't say we need to have more small businesses and more entrepreneurs. He's saying we need to be investing in our workforce. So more labor, more cheap labor, right, not getting them businesses. God, if they get their own businesses, they might make enough money and then become a competitor later on. So he also says instead the current governor is giving massive tax subsidies to out-of-state CEOs, trying to slash teacher and public servant pensions, and doing everything he can to rip access to health care from thousands of Kentucky families. Yeah, public servants, right? Teachers are public servants. They care so much about what the public wants. They get their paycheck. They tell everybody to shut up, sit down, and that's education, right? Teaching obedience to authority. You want a 21st century Kentucky, then just get the internet, tell people to educate themselves, and then have everybody teach each other. There you go. If everybody's teaching each other, we're learning, we're respecting one another. Whereas Baby Beshear would be better than Matt Bevin. All four Democratic candidates would be better than Matt Bevin. So at least they are talking about giving a damn, whereas Matt Bevin just says, health care, fuck you. Dental care, Kentucky, go out and get a job. You don't need no dental care. Kids, what the hell are you doing, you stupid kids? Go get a job. And then you have, the judges and the pensions, so they're sitting there acting like they care about the lowly worker when there's a lot of wealthy people that's getting pensions. You want to save Kentucky pensions, then quit paying millions of dollars for people who aren't working. Right? Give them the bare sustenance level. Give these judges $10,000. There, I just saved Kentucky millions of dollars in the pensions. Give them $10,000 like they make the people of Clay County work. The politicians should have the same lifestyles as the least. The least of my brethren, that which you do to the least of my brethren, you do unto me. So, Baby Beshear isn't bad. The reason why I wouldn't support him all the way, because Adam Edelin is better and Jeff Young is better. And so there's just a stink of entitlement, and he's, holier than thou. He's just better than everybody. He's also the front runner because